Episode 19, Epilogue. Still here? Hi. I'll be straight with you guys. Last chapter was the ending, this one is my ending. It's pure, shameless, self-indulgent shippy fluff. If you're not here for that, then you can hit back with no regrets. I won't be upset. Alternatively, you can skip to the end, where I'll have some last words and neat behind-the-scenes info to share. If you are here for the kissy, then I hope you enjoy. Epilogue. 2 years later. Time passed, as time did, and life moved forward, as life must. If anyone knew how to bounce back from crises, it was the people of the Mushroom Kingdom. Here in Toad Town, repairs were practically a way of life. 2 years ago, Peach's castle had returned to them as a ruin, battered and burned. Now it stood tall above the city, its walls pristine, its towers mended, and its stained glass princess more beautiful than ever. It shimmered especially brightly tonight, for as surely as the heavens spin, the Star Festival was here again. Last year, the holiday had been a quiet affair, in memory of the tragedy's victims. But this night was too special to be stained with grief, so this year the festivities were back in full swing. All over town, the streets were bursting with laughter and light. As usual, tourists had gathered from every corner of the realm, eager to be part of the celebration. All down the sidewalk, flying races worked together to string paper star bits between the lampposts. Nearby, a very long line of Yoshis stood before a certain Pianta's yearly eggnog stall. The smell of homemade treats drifted through the air, mixing with the sound of carolers in the marketplace. Amidst it all, a young couple made their way toward the castle, ready to join their friends at the Starlight Gala. "We don't want to be late," Mario said, watching as some teenage toads played with sparklers in Minty's garden. "This year's gala will be super spectacular, or so I've heard." In truth, he had been the one spreading that rumor, but Vivian didn't know that yet. It's going to be wonderful," the siren cooed, leaning softly into him as they walked. She smiled at him, her hair swirling cutely over one lavender eye. This evening, she was wearing a stylish red and white bead necklace, plus a pair of matching bracelets. Even after all these years, it seems she still admired Flurry's fashion sense. "It'll be so nice to see everyone again." It was getting harder to bring the old gang back together nowadays. Peach was trying to be a more active ruler, which meant diplomatic trips all across the globe. A few months back, Luigi had moved to Sarasa Land to be with Daisy, which had left the Mario homestead feeling pretty empty, until Vivian had suggested moving in. She was a welcome presence, even if living together did bring its own challenges. For example, neither of them had known the first thing about cooking. Luigi and Marilyn had always handled that in their respective families. At first, Mario had been clumsy with measurements, and Vivian prone to starting kitchen fires, but they kept at it together, and were improving day by day. They'd never be master chefs, but the nights of takeout from Krusty's Pizza Palace were growing fewer and further between. And of course, there were the little squabbles that all couples faced. It was impossible to share a blanket with Vivian, because of how she liked to cocoon herself. Meanwhile, the siren wasn't thrilled with Mario's snoring, or the way he left empty dishes in the fridge. But such things were small, and easy to forgive when you're very much in love. For the umpteenth time that day, Mario felt himself idly tracing the hem of his pocket. 2 years isn't enough, a part of him whispered, but he quickly dismissed the notion. "No, we're both ready for this." Honestly, he never used to think about it, but one of his recent odysseys had given him an idea that he just couldn't shake. Just then, his thoughts were scattered by a trio of toad girls, who ran up asking excitedly for a photo. Always glad to meet fans, Mario happily agreed to share a selfie. Vivian offered to hold the camera for a group shot, but the toads unanimously insisted that she be part of it, too. After all, she had earned a fair bit of celebrity in her own right.
What if I did both?
The siren asked, unsure, as she summoned a pair of shadow hands to assist. They navigated the camera while Vivian herself huddled in with the group. After the fans ran off, a bit too quickly, she turned to Mario with a worried frown.
Using the hands was a bad idea, wasn't it? Those girls must think I'm so creepy.
The hero gave her hand a reassuring squeeze.
They were just starstruck, Viv, that's all.
Vivian was rarely shy with him anymore, not after so long, but sometimes strangers could still bring out her anxiety.
You've gotten pretty good with those powers, you know. I'm proud of you for deciding to practice them.
They went on their way, and soon they were passing through the great brass gates of Peach's castle. Here in the Grand Plaza, the very air felt light and warm with luxury. High society shrooms mingled by elegant fountain statues, while sounds of a symphony echoed in from the gardens. These sights were all familiar, yet they had been sorely missed. By the main doorway, a sentry saluted as the lovers approached.
No trouble from Bowser yet, sir,
the guard said, answering Mario's unspoken question.
From what I've heard, he's been in the feast hall all evening.
Lately, Peach had realized that the easiest way to keep Bowser from starting trouble at her events was by inviting him. It's hard to crash a party if you belong there, after all. Making a mental note to steer clear of that wing, Mario let himself be ushered inside. Each year, the castle's great hall seemed to be decorated more splendidly than ever. Hanging candles and crystal chandeliers spiraled overhead, each flame enchanted to burn with silver starlight. Party guests gathered by tables made of white bogly wood, set with trays of honeyed mushrooms and gumnut cakes. Up the stairs, visitors drifted in and out of the balcony hallways, passing from one spectacle to the next. Princess Peach was there too, chatting with a pair of puffy Nimbus folk, but she quickly excused herself at the sight of her friends.
Mario, Vivian, you made it.
She smiled, hurrying down the stairs as briskly as her dress would allow.
Thank the stars, I'm getting so sick of strangers' flattery. Can you put up with friends' flattery?
Vivian asked as she and the princess shared a brief hug.
Everything is so lovely, just like always.
The three made their way to the side of the staircase, where they could speak more intimately.
I've wanted to try planning a dinner party, but I may ask for help if you're in town.
Speaking of Peach's foreign travels, there was an expected guest who Mario had not yet seen.
Say, where's Prince Pine?
He joked, glancing up in search of the dashing lad. Recently, Peach had made several trips to visit the prince in Jewelry Land, and naturally the rumor mill was starting to churn.
I thought he might be here, stuck to you like tree sap.
The princess rolled her eyes with a huff of mock frustration.
Honestly, Mario, those visits are for trade negotiations,
she insisted, although it was hard to miss her blush.
Pine is quite charming, but we're still just friends. For now.
Mario, for his part, was truly happy for her, that she had found someone she might finally be able to love. They talked for a while about life and love and adventure, but soon a party of confused-looking wittles tottered in the door, and it was time for Peach to play hostess again.
We'll speak again later,
she promised before heading back out to the floor.
Best of luck this evening.
She whispered to Mario in passing, quietly enough so Vivian wouldn't hear. Less than a minute later, a familiar pair of murky shapes emerged from the crowd. Vivian gasped in surprise, waving to get her sister's attention.
"God. Gyur."
Marilyn called as she waved back, nearly crashing into a clustered stack of shy guys. Beside her, Beldam was yammering something indistinct, most likely about making a scene, but even she seemed to be in better spirits than usual.
"I still don't know what you said to her,"
Vivian whispered, referring to her eldest sister,
"but this is the first time she's left the forest in years."
The old hag met their stare, giving Mario a curt nod before beckoning for Vivian to follow.
"I'm gonna go catch up, but I'll meet you in time to watch the comet."
The siren glided over to meet her sisters, yelping slightly as Marilyn enveloped her in a crushing bear hug. As Beldam led the trio away, Mario wandered off in search of his own entertainment. He took the nearest hallway out to the courtyard, where the party was thumping lively and loud. Partygoers danced and played carnival games, while children ran between tents waving light-up bubble wands. Up on a stage, some kind of blue robot was leading a frenzied crowd in karaoke. It was a bit much to take in all at once, so the hero sat down at an empty table to get his bearings.
"So this is where I find you, huh?"
a voice said from behind him. Mario didn't even have to turn around to know who it was. He could practically feel the cheeky enthusiasm coming off her in waves. Goombella hopped up on the seat beside him, the original, and his friend of many years. True to his word, Mario had emailed her after the timeline mishap, to pass on her double's last message. She had replied within the hour with a dozen follow-up questions, but her answer to the school remark came first.
"Well,
the email had said,
I could have told her that myself. You Goom taught me a lot, but the most important stuff I learned while traveling with you."
These days, she was doing quite well. A full-fledged archaeologist, working out in the field. She looked professional, with her blonde hair pulled into a loose bun, but Mario got the sense it was mainly ironic.
"I didn't think you would make it,"
he said, looting some hors d'oeuvres from a passing trolley.
"The last time we talked, you were excavating a lost library in Noki Bay."
She shook her head, giving him a sly grin.
"You're kidding, right? This is history in the making, there's no way I'd miss it."
They shared their snacks and reminisced, all while she begged, for a glimpse of the tiny thing in his pocket. Eventually, the evening sun began to set behind the battlements, and Goombella needed to be on her way.
"It's nearly showtime. I'm gonna go look for a good seat."
Mario sat for a while longer, fighting the flutters in his stomach. Had it truly been wise to tell his friends about this? He hoped they weren't all expecting grand theatrics. That just wasn't his style. Finally, he began to make his way upstairs, to that familiar spot on the terrace, where he knew Luigi would be waiting for him. Sure enough, the taller twin was there when he arrived.
"Hey bro, long time no see."
It had been a very long time, so the brothers didn't hesitate to reunite.
"So, how's life in Sarasso land?"
Mario asked as they leaned side by side against the balcony rail. He gazed out over the gala, eyes passing between strangers and friends.
"I'm proud of you for taking such a big step, striking out on your own. It's nice, and
very warm," Luigi chuckled, wiping phantom sweat from his brow.
"I'm not alone, though. Daisy bought me a big townhouse near the castle, so I see her every day."
He glanced at Mario, his next words nervously hushed.
"But that's nothing next to what you told me. Are you sure you want to go through with this?"
Mario had never been sure of anything, and that's the part that frightened him.
2 years ago, this would have seemed crazy to me."
He started, thinking back on his journeys, his heartaches, and that night in the cell when everything had changed.
"But here we are, and I can't imagine any other future I'd want."
Luigi smiled, satisfied with the answer.
"You're lucky Vivian feels the same way. I tried to ask Daisy once, but she just laughed and gave me a noogie.
He scratched the back of his neck, peering up and down the balcony.
Speaking of which, she's here somewhere. I bet she'll track me down soon.
True enough, it wasn't long before the tomboyish princess found them. She pushed her way through the crowd, ignoring the startled objections.
Come on, sweetie,
she said, practically dragging Luigi to the sidelines. A second later, she turned back and added,
Good luck, Mario. I came 1,000 miles for this, so don't chicken out.
They passed Vivian on the stairs, and the siren glanced uncertainly after them.
What was that all about?
She asked, slipping into the empty spot by the railing. A random Koopa passed by, giving Mario a genial pat on the back.
Everyone has been acting so strangely tonight, have you noticed?
Mario could only shrug, grateful that Beldam and Marilyn hadn't spilled the beans.
It's probably nothing,
he lied poorly, earning Vivian's curious side-eye. Thinking quickly, he held her hand and turned to stare up at the sky.
Sundown is here, so they've all got the pre-comet jitters.
Time passed softly, moment by moment, as night's shadow crept across the castle. Down below, the music and laughter began to ebb away, fading with the last breath of twilight. Lured by the silence, guests emerged from within, all anxiously awaiting the pale nativity of starlight. Star by star, the night sky came to life, and there, shining at its heart, was the slender trail of the comet itself. Shouts of joy rang up from below as more partiers rushed out to see the spectacle. 2 star bits, the evening's first, skittered down the eaves to land at Mario's feet. Vivian giggled as she noticed their colors, red and purple, but she fell silent when the next few caught her eye. All across the courtyard, star bits rained like candy crystals, bouncing here and there from tents and rooftops. But there were no greens, no pinks, no yellows. There were only their colors, only violet and red. The same shades danced in Vivian's eyes as she watched them fall, too stunned to speak.
Rosalina played her part beautifully,
Mario thought,
but the rest is up to me.
He cleared his throat, and instantly all eyes fell on him. The hero looked out, scanning the faces of his friends. Vivian's sisters, watching intently, and Dupliss, who gave the sheet equivalent of a thumbs up. Lady Bow and Yoshi, Goombella, Daisy, and Luigi. Princess Peach, who gave him a gently encouraging smile. Finally he saw Vivian herself, and no one else mattered.
2 years ago,
he began, taking her hands between his,
you and I made a promise that we'd go the rest of the way together. Do you remember that?
The siren nodded, finally beginning to catch on.
Well, I want to make that same promise again, for the rest of our lives.
He reached into his pocket, and carefully retrieved a glimmering diamond ring. Its box had been lost long ago, but the gem still shone like the day it was cut. This was it. The precious gift from Mario's mother, meant one day for his future bride. Vivian recognized it immediately, and barely managed to stifle a sob.
Ma Mario, is that? Are we?
It was time to bare his soul, and he did.
Vivian, will you be my player too?
He asked, getting down on one knee.
Will you marry me?
Silence fell for the length of a shared heartbeat, and then she was in his arms, showering him with yeses that turned into kisses. Below, the crowd exploded into cheers as Mario swept his fiancée into a deep and passionate embrace. So the gala resumed, and star bits fell around them all, mixing with fireworks that burst across the heavens. A medley of songs and laughter played up, over the rooftops and into the midnight air. Beyond the castle walls, the festival continued long into the night. And high above, the comet sailed on, blessing the world with hope, love, and the light of the stars. An end. An a beginning. Afterward. Sigh. That's it. This feels so weird. I get that not many of you like romance, but ultimately, I wrote this FAC to fill a void in my own heart, so I'd never have ended it any other way. TKBM came to me in pieces, over several years. I never tried to put them together, or put myself out there, until the Color Splash trailer. I felt let down, so this was my way of self-therapy. Eventually, it became something more. I did change a few bits. For example, I scrapped a scene in Chapter 9. The party would have stopped by Glitzville en route to the woods. In that world, it's a seedy tourist trap with no money to fly. We would have seen a meek, wimpy rock hawk as a waiter in the juice bar. It was a fun idea, but it hurt the pacing and didn't fit the spooky theme, so I skipped it. There's also an alt cut of the interlude's last scene, that I did actually write. It's from the Empress POV, and describes her thoughts as she wakes up in Peach's body. In the end, I chose to delay the twist so that you guys could learn the truth alongside the heroes. So, about sequels. I want to, but I'm not sure if I can yet. I'm tired, and my ideas just seem derivative. I don't want to let go, but I can't write just for the sake of staying. For now, let's say it's happily ever after. But who knows? Someday I might surprise you. 3. Lastly, a big final thanks to you all. Especially Zero Rebidal, J Crew 123, CHL Star, Finding Out Why, The Holy Blade, Glorious Rose, EMS 602, Perdidit Umbra, and Ben, who all reviewed at least 3 chapters. You guys are the best. But I need to give a special shout out to Lawat, who reviewed every single chapter in great depth. Thanks for all the help and praise, it really kept me going. I'll see you all later. Somehow, I'm sure. The last goodbye. Lawat / if I knew how to send you a signed copy, I totally would. P. Like I said, I understand that some fans are put off by shipping. Love is great, but like everything else, it's not for everyone, and that's fine. Still, I believe that you'll find someone, someday, who makes you believe again. AIAI 3668 / thanks again. I hope that this ending lived up, to CHL Star / the ring was mentioned twice, by the way, in chapters 5 and 11. Hey, now that I have time, I can start your stories. Thank you all. Good night. Site.